Hi my friends, CA here, and on Wednesdays you can find me here talking about books for kids with a little bit of a geek twist. And this week's book pick is the middle grade book, The Game Masters of Garden Place. What started as a birthday party activity, something Declan introduced to Ralph and his friends Noel, Jojo, Persephone, and Cammy, turned into a regular Saturday afternoon activity for the 6 kids over a few years. I'm talking about a tabletop role-playing game, Reign of Dragons, so similar to like a Dungeons and Dragons. When Declan informed them that they had to move, that he had to move on because he was going to school and therefore he wouldn't be able to be the game master anymore, the GM. Kids took turns trying their hand at it, but ultimately Ralphie ended up being the game master because of his like real in-depth knowledge of how it went. Like anything that's introduced to kids when they're younger, as they get older, like their interests change. And it seems to Ralphie that all of his friends have less of an interest in the game than he does, and it's something that he fears a part of his life, what kind of has kept the group together, is falling apart, and he's going to miss that. And so he thinks that one big super game will bring everybody back into the fold and they'll kind of continue on again. His sister glared at him. This wasn't good. He needed an ally. Ralph turned to his dad. "You should understand, Dad. Weren't you into anything fun when you were my age?" His father thought for a minute. "I made models. That was kind of cool. I remember spending an entire summer making a Millennium Falcon when I was 12. Ralph turned to his mom. "See? He was 12. How long did you make models?" His dad grinned. "Well, right after that I discovered girls and music. So making models became less important." Ralph threw his head back and looked at the ceiling. He had taken some serious damage on his mental health points with that one. "Nobody is saying you have to stop," Gigi said. "But how are you going to keep going if all your friends are leaving?" It was time to move in and strike the first blow. "Here's what I'm hoping. I've asked for an extra long session, like until dinner. I'm hoping if I make the story good enough, they'll stay." And it is from that one big game that something kind of magical happens. The kids' real world and the fantasy world kind of collide, and it just brings up a whole other elements of what to do and challenges. But it certainly does meet Ralphie's need to keep the kids interested in the game again. I really enjoyed the book, mainly because as a family we have tried playing Dungeons and Dragons, and so I could really see some of the challenges, the things the kids loved about the game, the things that kids started to walk away from, the commitment, the excitement. The story did sort of a good job toggling between the fantasy world and the real world. So if you've ever played a role-playing game, it is you are a character and you kind of play like a role play that character in the game. We are faced with challenges. You roll various dice to determine your fate or action or power, whatever it may be, based on that challenge. And so the story goes from the kids playing the game, the kids, a few elements of them at school, elements of them trying to make decisions or commenting on the gameplay, into switching to their characters and the actual characters they play. And so you will kind of go through a chapter of the challenge. So it does have a little bit of that fantasy storytelling in it. Then they proceeded toward the Ghoul's Maw, the name of a tavern given to them by an old beggar as a natural meeting place for old sailors. Following his directions, they found themselves at the mouth of a pitch-dark alley. Gerontius used his orb to bring light, which revealed giant spiders gliding toward them, mouths open, ready to strike. It was harder to fight off spiders than the bandits, but Merrick's arrows were true, and she dispatched the queen, who landed on her back. squashing a number of her children, sending black blood spraying everywhere. And finally, as soon as they arrived at the tavern, the stench of suspicion rose from every table. The barkeep, a grubby, muscled half-orc, leered at Merrick as she walked in. She ignored him. So you'll get almost little snippets of a little fantasy story throughout the book, but a real fun read. So if you have a middle grader who is into maybe role-playing games, or if you yourself as a parent are into role-playing games and want to kind of introduce the idea to your kids, I think this is a great book. I'll be sure to include a little more information about the book in the description below should you be interested in adding it to your child's home library. On Wednesdays you can find me here talking about books for kids, books with a little bit of a geek twist. If you like this content, like to see more content like it, be sure to give it a little thumbs up. If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon to be notified as more content like this is published. And until next time, one to beam out. Woo!